Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. A win, something positive to talk about, 3 points, a clean sheet, Mo Salah's 250th goal, all at Anfield on Saturday night, and there is plenty to be positive about. However, there is a huge week and a lot of big games coming up before that international break to get into at the same time. I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And David, rumour has it that whilst I was joining a Chinese at the Hot Walk, lamb scouts was on the menu at Anfield reportedly.
That's right. Yeah, actually, yeah. Yeah, they do go with the scouts sometimes. I actually went for the vegetarian chili. I'm trying to help out the environment from time to time, but yeah, it's not a bad effort this week. It's not always the best of food at Anfield, I have to say, even if that comes across as terrible because we get it for free. I do always appreciate it, but yeah, sometimes not always the best.
It was needed, though, because it wasn't the warmest of nights at Anfield, but the football, I can't think of another word. Everything was just better, wasn't it? Atmosphere, control, performances, everything was just better on Saturday night.
Yeah, it was just kind of the kind of result and performance that you've been waiting for, really, is every aspect of the game. Liverpool looked stronger and better and more like their old selves, really, which was, I think the opposition maybe had something to do with that, but also I think Liverpool were better as well. And so, you put those two things together and you get a very good team and a good performance. And that's what Liverpool are. I know people are losing sight of that in a bad recent run, and I don't think that's over. I don't think they're out the woods yet. They've, some real tests to kind of prove themselves in. But, you can forget too easily that this is a good collection of players that, I think that the floor for this side is probably third place in the Premier League. So, even with all the issues that we've seen this season. And so, I think some of the criticism has, maybe been a bit over the top, calling for players' heads, calling for the managers to go, all those sorts of things. It was a good reminder that there's a really good football team in there as well.
Yeah, no doubts about it. There was so much to like. And as well, the one thing, because we talked about basketball games in recent times, there was more control, it felt, in this one to what they were doing. I know there was maybe sliding door moments when Morgan Rogers hits the post, but largely there was just more control.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a couple of moments where Villa get in behind Liverpool's midfield that make you feel uncomfortable. But, the fact is that's been happening way too regularly in recent games. And so to kind of limit that, and you're probably never in matches as well. Let's not forget, this happened last season as well. You're never probably going to completely limit that to the point it never happens, particularly with the way that Liverpool, they try and play in an expansive way. So you're going to leave yourself open to that sometimes, but it was a lot less than we'd seen recently. And, even the fact that, Villa go close a couple of times, I don't think they were particularly worrying situations. I mean, they hit the post twice and you might think, oh, well, Liverpool have just got lucky this time rather than kind of unlucky in other games or whatever. But the fact is, Morgan Rogers hits the post from quite far out. If he scores there, you've kind of got to say it's a really good finish. The one that Cash gets pushed onto the woodwork, doesn't it? It's a great save, but huge deflection. And again, would have been fortunate. And kind of, what Liverpool did that was really good, they were limiting Villa to those efforts from the edge of the box, from places where if they score, you almost got to hold your hands up. And of course, they almost did, but it really would have felt like, oh my God, how poor is Liverpool's look at the moment, because they were limiting them. And I think, Villa, that's the two closest efforts they have in the entire game. And I think they end that half with 0.15 expected goals. Yeah. So that shows you Liverpool were limiting them. And, I had a Villa fan kind of tweeting me saying, it was really close, we could have scored. And that is true, of course, you could score. But the name of the game with Liverpool, the name of the game with any football team is create as many good opportunities as you can yourself and limit the opposition. And the fact is, you can't always control that. Sometimes the Cash goal will go in. Sometimes the Rodgers shot will go in. But if you do that consistently and you have a certain amount of expected goals ahead of your opposition, and you manage games in that way, you will win more than you lose, and you will put yourself in contention for trophies. That's all a manager and a team can do, is say, if we do this process and we give ourselves this foundation, we give ourselves a chance to win. And so that's what I really liked about it, is they gave themselves the foundation to win. They didn't leave anything to luck. They didn't kind of create 2.5 expected goals, but also concede 2.5 expected goals. So it's a coin flip whether you win or not. The process was really, really good. And so in that sense, it was a really deserved win, and one that you could kind of get behind more than if they just kind of fluked it in some way. Because I think, the thing you had to see in this was a better process, a good kind of a win that was fully deserved. And I think this was definitely that.
Yeah, it was totally deserved. And I think people who played the part in that will talk about players, but the crowd was good on Saturday. And maybe it's the bonus of Anfield under the lights, a full day on the ale and things like that. But the crowd was alive for this one, weren't they?
Yeah, I think like we said before, the Saturday 8 p.m.'s always help because everyone's had a bit more of a drink or whatever, and they kind of feel like those big events at the end of the night. But also, I think there was a feeling at Anfield as well that you've barely been at home recently. So, that's people are missing it. And then, everyone felt like they turned up with the kind of job to do, which was to really get behind the players in a difficult moment, because it has been that. And so, I thought the crowd really did the job, and it was a great atmosphere. The Villa last year, the 8 p.m. Saturday was really good as well. And, kind of good to get back to that. Players responded, players gave them something to get behind as well. And, when they work together like that, the crowd and the players, then Anfield's a really difficult place to go.
It is. And it's weird because Villa, before this, had won 4 on the spin. They'd be the opposite form from Liverpool. But is it weird to say that actually Emery having those tactics of will take Liverpool on in a football game? It wasn't like set piece, long balls, which has kind of been the blueprint recently. That maybe helped us in a weird way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was kind of nice and refreshing for Liverpool to come up against a side that was looking to play football rather than just kind of hoof it forward. And the fact is, that's not a criticism of the teams they've played before, because it's clearly the sensible thing to do, because Villa got absolutely picked off and couldn't really get a foothold in the game, and everybody else has had joy against Liverpool. So it seemed kind of unwise for Villa not to go a bit more direct. And you can kind of see that in the numbers, actually. I had a quick look this morning, and it's the 3rd lowest amount of long balls Liverpool have faced this season. The ones below it are Eintracht Frankfurt and Burnley. And that was for long passes attempted. I mean, Burnley couldn't really touch the ball, so it's not a surprise they were low. But, So, but Villa had some of the ball and couldn't really make it work. I did like in the moments they did go direct. I thought Liverpool dealt with it really well, to be fair, and I thought the defending of set pieces was very good. So that was encouraging. The few long throws in there that Liverpool did really well on as well. So, they did deal with it. But of course, I think Villa might have regrets that they didn't try it a little bit more, because, maybe they'd have got more joy, because I thought they got kind of stamped out of the game, really, and pretty much controlled by Liverpool.
Yeah, especially the later it went on, almost post the 2-0. I wouldn't say it petered out into nothing, but there wasn't too much happening, which suited us very well at the same time. And go on.
Sorry, just to come in on that, because it's a really good point, is that probably was my favourite part of the game, is that at 2-0, nothing happens.
Nothing.
I mean, there's so much to be said for that. Liverpool was so good at doing that last season. I think even second half, it ends kind of 0.35-ish expected goals each. It's so dull, which when you're the side who's 2-0 up from around an hour mark is absolutely fantastic. And, Villa tried to push late on, but he just couldn't really make anything happen, couldn't really get any quality shots off. And you look at their shot map at the end of the game, and it's, not very attractive at all. And great to see Liverpool going back to being able to do that, because they haven't recently.
And I know you'll have heard about it, because I know you mentioned it in the video. Dan Kennett on our Under Pressure, he always talks about that garbage time. It's good just to win games like this, manage it, rest the legs, have nothing happen. Everyone will take a 2-0 all day long. And it's right to talk about a few players, because there's been some under the microscope more than others. And understandably, at the same time, it's been such a poor season for Alexis Mac Allister, and the standards we hold him as the best midfielder in the Premier League last season. But maybe not full pomp, but look back to Alexis Mac Allister somewhat, didn't he, on Saturday?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, easily his best performance of the season so far, which is a pretty low bar, really, considering that he's just been miles off it, hasn't he? But this is the thing, this is what's difficult for managers. It's so easy to kind of say, isn't it? And I've said it myself. Just you've got to get him out of the team for a sustained period. You can't, but you've got to be able to judge them when to bring him back in, because the longer you leave him out, the further you are away from this happening, which is that he just turns and it happens. And it's so hard to judge that. It's kind of like alchemy, isn't it? It's a real, you never know when that is coming. But it finally kind of came, and and I just thought he was excellent. He just gives you so much on both sides of the ball. He really is kind of just a man who knits everything together, and Liverpool have really missed that this season. And he just provided everything they kind of needed to give them a perfect blend in that midfield. And so hopefully this is the sign that he is fully back now, and we can see repeated performances like this, because he's just utterly crucial when he's on it like that.
It is crucial. That's the right word. If it's that consistency, we can keep seeing this week in, week out, things will start to turn, no two ways about it. And I suppose one player, I don't know if we're just coming to expect this again. I felt gutted for him that the Ekitike header was offside, because the ball in was sensational. Dominic Szoboszlai was the official man of the match again. He's just at such a level every week. We expect it almost now, don't we?
Yeah, without question, Liverpool's best player so far this season, and just the consistency levels are just there now. He just looks like a man who's been in the Premier League now for a couple of years and kind of completely understands what the job is. He's showing all aspects of his quality. I think he's in a position now where, if he can take up those deeper positions from time to time as well, they allow him to do that a bit more, even when he's at the kind of the top of the thing, at the top of the midfield, that he can. There's a real rotation there now, so he can get in deep areas and show that he can fire the ball in, and then he can get forward and show little cute exchanges, and the fact he can be back and forth as well, because he's just unbelievable levels of energy. Really, really good again, and unfortunate not to get an assist, but I mean, just everything he adds. I described him and compared him to last season. I think I wrote this piece about he very much reminds me of kind of Firmino in this team, in that Firmino always used to give you an extra man on both sides of the ball. He'd kind of be the late arriver when you were on the attack, and then he'd be the guy who was coming in to give you an extra man in midfield. And Szoboszlai just feels like that. He's just everywhere. And so, exactly what we saw from him against Villa. And he's just undroppable, isn't he? You cannot take him out of this team at the moment. He's the heartbeat, which is it's an interesting one, because I think a few people maybe thought he'd be the one to be sacrificed when Florian Wirtz come in. Well, I'm sure there's more to come from Wirtz, but even when that happens, I really don't think you can take Szoboszlai out.
You can't. It was even late on when we were on the break, and then he's joining the attack as one of the attackers and sprint straight back in, and that's late in the game. He just literally is our most important player right now, undroppable. But in terms of important players, Arne Slot mentioned this afterwards, and I love this quote about Salah. Mo scoring is not a surprise to anyone, but he was also strong in holding the ball up and helping the team out. This is the Mo we all want to see. And it maybe is too strong, but it just felt like bullying Lucas Digne, everything that he did. It felt a little bit like Mo Salah was back, shall we say, on Saturday with everything we've been discussing.
Yeah, and again, kind of similar to McAllister. How do you judge this? It would have been so easy. I mean, even after the Brentford game, so his last game's Brentford, he scores a brilliant goal. There's still a really strong case to drop him for this game, because I thought he was atrocious at Brentford, to be honest. But that's what makes the manager's job so difficult, and why he deserves a bit more understanding, because it's so clear. Why would you? It's so easy to say from the sidelines, drop a guy who gave you 50 goal contributions last season because he's not playing well at the moment. But when do you judge to put him back in then? How do you pick that out? Because how do you pick that moment? Because what's going to happen, and this is form, you never know when it's going to turn. And it turned pretty dramatically against Villa. I thought, the goal was kind of gifted to him, but every other aspect of his performance was absolutely fantastic. And who could have seen that coming after Brentford? I personally didn't. So, it's very, very difficult to judge, but really good and encouraging that he seemed to be back to his best. And like McAllister, he's so crucial to this team. So you just hope that he can keep it up. And this is a real turning point for them because, they've both been below their standards recently. But this was a real step in the right direction.
Really was. I mean, that's 2-2 for Salah, and it's 250 for Liverpool, which is insane. But it was probably noticeable, you can see in the stadium, and probably people at home as well, that Salah tended to be the outball when there was nothing on for Mahmudashvili or like the defenders. They were literally pinging it to Salah, who pinned Digne, wasn't he, and holding it. He was the outball on Saturday.
Yeah, that was actually interesting because you kind of thought, some of them, the diagonals as well, they were hitting him when Digne was close. And you're usually thinking a lot of the fullbacks they've come up against recently would just kind of muller Salah in the air, but he was kind of using his strength to back in, taking a really nice touch, and that happened an awful lot. And then Liverpool were up the pitch, really. And it was kind of, it was nice to see kind of another form of build-up there as well, because I think, sometimes Liverpool have had trouble in that. I actually think that's been getting better week on week if people have kind of been watching closely. I think build-up has been, there's been aspects of build-up that have been improving massively, but this was kind of another string to the bow, is just hitting a long diagonal in Salah's direction and going from there, and it really, really worked for them. So it'd be interesting to see if they keep that up, whether they kind of take it on a case-by-case basis against, depends what kind of fullback he's up against, but it definitely worked for them, and it helped that he was able to, bring the ball down so brilliantly and then find other players around him.
Well, yeah, it's just a conduit for everything that was good on Saturday. If McAllister and Salah can just keep to that level, things will turn very quickly. I suppose you mentioned it earlier because it's good. It's a good result. It's a clean sheet. There's loads of positives from this. There was still a few times that Villa did just waltz through our midfield, didn't they? Even like committing too many on the break. There was just still a few things you thought we need to tighten up still.
Yeah, a couple of moments where I think the manager will feel that kind of, I saw him talking from the sidelines a moment after Villa had kind of got in the midfield about, talking amongst yourselves, who's going, who's staying. Let's just kind of keep the communication going. So it's not absolutely perfect, but of course, it was never perfect last season either, by the way. But what Liverpool did is when they got played through, is they got back in and they got numbers behind the ball, and that was something that they did to a decent level in this game. So they've just got to kind of keep that up and, of course, limit the ability of the opposition to play through them, but just make sure if that happens that you're getting bodies in front of the ball, and if you do that, then you're not going to concede too many chances. Which, of course, even when Liverpool did get played through, they didn't concede very many chances at all.
They really didn't. And yeah, a few more performances, a few more results, maybe more importantly, like that, and things will start to look a lot rosier. So a lot to like from Saturday.